Lieutenant Colonel Michael Kay is here, an international analyst and former advisor to Britain's Ministry of Defense. We don't have any privacy anymore, do we?
I think what's important first to look at, Shep, and this is very important, is the context in which the NSA operates at the moment. It's got a very, very sensitive role, and it's sensitive because the threat is unconventional, it's irregular, and it's asymmetric. And what that means is that we don't know where the threat's coming from, we don't know who is going to be implementing the threat, and we don't know what the threat's actually going to be. So in accordance with that, the US has to take unconventional methods, and the NSA has to take unconventional methods in order to counter that threat in some way. We also need to understand that the threat isn't just from an external single-source country.
You know what it feels like, though? Excuse me for interrupting, but it feels like they're the threat sometimes. What they have done here is trampled all over the Constitution, haven't they? Haven't they trampled over people's rights to privacy and freedom from unreasonable search and seizure? I mean, how can they do this?
Well, I mean, it's quite easy to see that, and I can understand why you see that point of view.
Because it's what they're doing.
But we go back to the argument, and we go back to the debate on civil liberties versus national security. And I think what's happened here is that in order for the NSA to conduct their business, intelligence isn't open source. Intelligence has to be closed source, because if it's not closed source, then you're going to compromise the safety of the people, US citizens abroad and at homeland, and also the safety of the infrastructure. So it has to be closed source. But with that in hand comes the respect and the confidence in the US public for the NSA and the administration to do their job. And clearly that's a little bit out of kilter at the moment.
Yeah, clearly it is. I mean, at one point I was thinking I probably should just start CCing the NSA at the bottom of every email, but it appears it's unnecessary. They've got them anyway.
Well, I think the NSA have an incredibly hard job to do. I'm not defending them, but they have.
Well, actually, you kind of are defending them.
Hear me out here, Shep. They are looking for a needle in a haystack when it comes to intelligence. I used to hunt these guys in Baghdad for many, many years, and what would trigger a single mission is months and months, if not years, of intelligence. And if at any point that intelligence trail was compromised through what we saw a couple of weeks ago or last week with the US embassy closures, then you have to reset, and then that mission doesn't go ahead. So there is a lot that goes on behind closed doors here. It's not just about monitoring the emails of US citizens. It actually is it's almost like a blanket search that has to pick up maybe a couple of sound bites or a couple of code words that we think Al-Qaeda are using.
But you know, if they need to search everything, if they need to see everybody's emails and listen to every phone call, we need to change the Constitution, don't we?
I couldn't agree more. And
so if we need to change the Constitution, maybe they ought to work on that. But as long as we're working under this Constitution, we got rules around here, and they have to follow them. We have this document that was put together by our forefathers. If this bunch running the place now wants to change it, there's a process for that. In the meantime, they got to play by the rules. I run the traffic light, I get a ticket. They steal my emails. They can't do that.
Sure, it's a good point, but, you know, forgive me for saying that when the forefathers made the Constitution and put the Constitution together, Al-Qaeda didn't exist.
Then why isn't somebody talking about changing the Constitution rather than going around it or going straight through it with a ramrod?
And this is the debate that we need to have.
Yeah, well, maybe they need to talk. I don't hear anybody talking about changing the Constitution. I hear them talking about breaking it.
If the administration need wider, leaner legislative laws in order to counter the threat to the US homeland and ameliorate the safety to the US citizens abroad, then this debate has to happen. It cannot go on doing what it's doing under the Constitution the way it exists at the moment.
There were terrorists 200 years ago. They were in different forms. But the Constitution is not a cafeteria plan. If they want to make it a cafeteria plan, you know, like just take whichever parts you want, then fine. No, but that's not the rule.
Sure, I agree. But you know, there's another point to make here as well, is 15
seconds.
And that we elected or you guys elected the president, and there's a respect and there's a confidence within the administration in order to achieve that. If the president needs to make decisions in extremis to protect the safety of US citizens abroad, then he should be allowed to do that. If that then becomes the norm, that's when we need to have this debate that you're talking about over legislation, etc.
All right. Good of you. Thank you.
Thanks, Joe.